This episode is a mission to uncover the realities and need to knows of planning for children within the legal profession, how flexibility should be embraced in the workplace, and how having a side business can benefit you in the long term, aside from the cash. This week, I'm speaking to Catherine Brooks, partner at Moores and co-founder of an online beauty business, The Natural Supply Co. Make sure you subscribe to the Gatehouse Legal Recruitment YouTube channel to catch it all. So you're currently the principal at Moores. Where were you before Moores, and how have you gotten to where you are now? Tell us.
Okay, sure. So I started my career in Melbourne at Holding Redleek, and I was in the litigation team, and that was a fantastic experience to get a range of a breadth of different files and different work, but I more and more started leaning towards workplace relations. And I think I really enjoyed that because I could really understand the problems. They were about people. Even if you're representing a business, it's about people. And the other thing I really liked about workplace relations is that you can often prevent people from getting to litigation in the first place. So I started doing more and more work in workplace relations. But then I sort of really questioned whether or not I should be in the law, because I was very passionate about economics and commerce and really passionate about supporting businesses. So I actually went and worked for Australian Industry Group in Sydney, and I got the experience to work with Heather Ridout, who has been on the Reserve Bank board, which was an amazing experience. So I learned a lot about the different industry sectors, such as airline and transport, and that was fantastic. And then I got the call from Clayton Utz. They wanted me to assist them with enterprise agreement negotiations. So I worked with them first Sydney and then Brisbane, and then that's where I actually met my current husband, which was fantastic. And after about 12 months, I really missed my family. So my husband and I moved back to Melbourne, and I ended up at Moores.
So what got you into law in the first place?
Well, I'm from a long line of lawyers. So my grandfather had a law firm in Geelong, my uncle had a law firm in Bendigo, my mother is a lawyer, and I now work with my brother, who's a lawyer as well. So I think in our family, we're good at reading and writing and not much else. So half of our family are teachers and the other half are lawyers.
That's awesome. So you're also recently a mum, a full-time mum. Tell us how you balance everything between, I suppose, work, family. What do you do? Because I know so many women within the profession want to know. And also, what do you need to do to actually plan? Should people be planning for children?
Yeah, I think it's really important to plan and have a good think about when you want to have children. I don't think there's ever a great time, and even if you fall pregnant by accident, there's lots of women in the law that has happened to, and they've made it work and they've got really successful careers. But I think it has been helpful for me to go through a bit of workplace planning and make sure that I was in a comfortable position at a really supportive firm. That's really important. I recently published an article where I talked about the fact that having a baby in the law is a 3-year proposition, and that's because you're going to spend 1 year during pregnancy. That's, you know, if you try and you fall pregnant straight away, then you have 9 months of pregnancy. You then will take up to 12 months off normally, and obviously I transitioned back a lot earlier, but you know, during that 12 months you're still transitioning back up to some kind of part-time, full-time capacity. And then for a lot of women, you've got to stay in that firm for at least another year to make sure that you can keep the additional parental leave benefit that you've been given. So it really is important to think of having a baby in the law as that at least a 3-year planning cycle, and I think that can really help especially young women get their heads around the planning. But I've also been talking to an increasing number of men in the legal profession who actually want to be a primary carer or really support their wife, who may also be in the law or have another type of high-level career. And so it's been really interesting to be able to talk about my experience, because I actually did 3 days work and my husband did 3 days work, so we shared the juggle in that way. And I really don't think without my husband's support I would have been able to continue working in the way that I have. So it is really important that we have discussions with our young men in the law and we start talking to them about the options for them too to be able to help with that caring role.
What should men know?
I think first off, they should know that they're supported and that they will be encouraged if they choose to be a primary carer. And I think it's just really important that they know it's an option. I certainly know since Brendan, my husband, has taken time to be a carer for our son Remy, he's had a lot of other men contact him and ask him about the process, about the social stigma that's out there. We know that in Australia, less than 10% of men are the primary carers, so it is still a minority, and it's really important for men to be able to reach out to other stay-at-home dads or to other dads working flexibly so that they don't feel so alone. Women are really great at getting a good support network, whether it's through mothers groups, parent groups, play groups. There's a lot of women that you can reach out to and talk with, but it's a bit harder for men. So I think just making it more socially acceptable by talking about it as an option is a really good starting point.
Do you get a lot of men at Moores wanting to do that, the parental leave as well?
Absolutely, yeah. So we've actually got one fellow principal of mine. He works flexibly because his wife has just completed a PhD and she's now starting a new role. So he started working or taking Wednesdays off and working flexibly from home, and that worked really well for him. It was interesting with his experience because he found that he actually still achieved the same output even though his input was less. And I think that's something that a lot of women have experienced and know as well. So our firm has really started focusing on output more as opposed to bums on seats or hours, and that's because we don't do billable hours, so we can focus much more on output of the individual lawyer. But yeah, we've got a range of men at Moores that work flexibly, and not just parents. We've got people going into the next stage of their life that are transitioning down into retirement, so they're working flexibly. People that want to spend time with their grandchildren, they're working flexibly. So yeah, I think in some ways a lot of people at Moores are actually already working flexibly, which is great.
That is awesome. And it's good that Moores support it as well.
We're very lucky, we're very fortunate.
Who's the driving force behind that? Is it you?
No, not at all. I'm really the beneficiary, I think, of the people that have come before me. In fact, when I had just had Remy and there was a principals meeting, and I said I really would love to come to that principals meeting, but I'll have to bring Remy with me, and he was still breastfeeding and needed to be pretty much attached to me all the time, and they said, of course, bring him along, you can breastfeed during that principals meeting. And there was a moment where I did feel Remy was getting a bit unsettled, and I felt like I should step outside and just feed him outside. And one of the fellow female principals, Jennifer Dixon, she actually came and got me and she said, what you've got to say as part of this discussion is really important. Please come back into the room, feel comfortable. And that was just such an amazing moment to feel so included. And it was because we've had so many principals and lawyers that have worked flexibly that I was then given that opportunity. So, my real, I think my real role now is to make sure that the people behind me are also going to have that opportunity to work flexibly. So it's important that it's just an ongoing discussion. But it's certainly been, David Wells, our managing principal, is very pro flexible work. He says that for the right people, you do anything that you need to do to make someone feel included in the workforce. And also our HR director, Joelle Blackburn, is very good at helping people work through all the different options that there are to make it work, in effect.
That's so awesome. So many firms, and there's so much discussion in the profession about flexible working arrangements and things like that, but no one seems to be implementing it well like Moores has been able to do it. And I've spoken to some lawyers and they've said, I've got flexible working arrangements, and that means coming in at 9 and finishing at 4:30.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the extent it goes.
It's actually really hard in a recruitment setting because people just don't believe me because they've been told that they'll be given flexible work, particularly in top tier, and they've just been burnt by the promises. So it's good that I've now had the lived experience, and sometimes when we're recruiting people, if they don't believe me, I send them pictures when I'm at the playground at 4 p.m. I'll send them a photo saying, see, I'm telling you, it's true, we actually do get flexibility. So awesome. But it's also great to be able to then put them onto other people's so that they can hear their stories as well. So it's interesting. I think, recently I just posted an article about the ability for, I think that all office jobs can be worked flexibly, and it's had over 8,000 views on LinkedIn, and it's actually not even a controversial article.
It's not? I think I've read that one.
It's really not.
Can you see which profession it's come from or which industries? Is it illegal or is it, do you know where it's the views have come from?
At least 40% were from the legal profession, but there was also a huge percentage of CEOs and board members that were looking at it, which is interesting. And the most amount of views were from my second connection, so not even people that I know, which is great. But I just think it's a very interesting outcome because, as I said, it's not a controversial topic. I wouldn't think that every office job can be done flexibly. I did put the call out that if anyone disagrees with me or if they've had a flexible work arrangement refused, I'm happy to take the call and talk them through some options available. And unfortunately, I haven't had one call because I think, people in theory believe it, but then there's difficulties in the workplace. So yeah, I'm hoping just by keeping up the discussion, there will be change. And I know that there are some other really big organisations that are very pro-flexible work, and they're the ones that we really need to see lead the way, I think.
Yeah. That's awesome. In terms of flexible working arrangements, would you say it's a one-size-fits-all? Would it really need to accommodate to each individual within a firm or company?
Absolutely, and I don't even think it's a one-size-fits-all for an individual, because what I've learned, my child's only 2 and I only have 1, but what I've learned is that each stage requires different accommodating factors. Yeah. So I've really tried so many different types of flexible work arrangements, and I think that's something that's a bit of a common misperception, that if you put forward a proposal, say for example you want to work 3 days in the office, 1 day from home, and you think, well, if that gets approved, that's it, it's set and forget. But I think with flexible work, it just needs to be a constant discussion. So when I first returned to work at 5 months, I worked in the office in the morning, went home to breastfeed, and then worked from home in the afternoon. That then didn't work after a month or 2, so I then changed to working, I think I tried some longer days in the office, longer days at home. I then tried splitting my hours across Monday to Friday, and it was really just this constant discussion with the partner that I report to and the managing principal, but also taking into account the employees. Were they getting enough access to me? Sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't, so I had to switch things up. And then also checking in with the clients. Did they feel that they had enough access to me? And if not, what other options could we put in place? So yeah, it's been a really good experience to go through that myself, because I obviously advise clients on how they can implement flexible work arrangements. But I think the most important thing to consider is that it's not something that's set in stone, and also if someone puts in a request, don't just refuse it, actually meet with them and talk through and see if there are other options available.
Yeah, it's so important, the trialing it.
And error. Yeah.
Trial and error, see what's working, and communicating with, like, I suppose, other staff and that.
Yeah, and I think it's particularly hard when you return to work after parental leave, because you're really sleep deprived. Yeah. You're feeling insecure as it is because you've had some time away from the workforce. And for a lot of lawyers, we have never had more than 2 or 4 weeks off, over a period of time. So having a big chunk, even 5 months, that's a big chunk of time to be away from the workforce. So, I think you do feel particularly vulnerable, and it's really hard to have those discussions when you're still expressing at work, or you're still, rushing home to breastfeed, or you're feeling that angst of not being with your child, to then sit down with someone and talk about something that at work that's not working properly. It's really tough, but it's really important to do. And if you feel that you're safe and that you can talk about it in a safe environment, then that's really key. Yeah.
Touching on the challenges of coming back to work after maternity leave, you touched on a few there. Are there any others you had? And I suppose, what can firms do to support women coming back from that time off?
I think absolutely the most important thing is to ensure that both employee and employer are keeping in touch, and there's actually legislated obligations under the Fair Work Act that you have to keep in touch with an employee when they're on leave. But time and time again, I hear from employers and employees saying that person's been away for 12 months and I haven't even spoken to them. What I would say to lawyers is, so much changes when you're not at work. It's really crucial to be keeping in touch with your employer and the team of people that you work with. I know for me, I did feel, it's a different feeling of not being a part of a community if you're, suddenly away from the workplace, and then you've got to make a new community with your parent group, which is good, but I think it's important to keep in touch with your team at work. So I would regularly check in with them. I would have lunches maybe once a fortnight, or pop in for a coffee. And people were often saying, what are you doing here? it's nice to see you. But I would say, well, you know, it's really important for me that I see you guys. I miss you. You're an important part of my life. I would love to show off, you know, my baby, but also to attend leadership meetings or team meetings if there was something important to discuss. And I think what that means for lawyers is that if there is a restructure in your firm, if there's you know, an upturn in work, or if there's a downturn in work and there's workforce planning that's going on, you're not forgotten. So you're very much front of mind if you're regularly keeping in touch, and you can't be forgotten as part of that process. And so I think it's really important. And I think from the employer's perspective, it's important to keep in touch so that you know where that person's at. You know, what are they planning? Are they proposing to come back soon? Are they proposing to take a little bit longer? It just gives you that heads up about their mindset, and it can also mean that you can reach out and give them support if you think that they are struggling a bit with this new change. You can offer your employee assistance program or other counselling support. So yeah, I think number one, keeping in touch provisions is really important.
In terms back in 2015, I wanted to move us back into a disability you came out with in the profession. Can you share a little bit about that? Because you said in an article that it totally changed everything for you. Can you share, obviously, what the disability is and how coming out back in 2015 changed everything for you?
Yeah, sure. So I have multiple sclerosis and Hashimoto's. They're both autoimmune conditions. And I first had a serious attack when I was 23, so I was still completing my law degree then. At that stage, it was very terrifying. I couldn't actually walk for about 8 months, couldn't walk properly. I couldn't go to the supermarket, for example, so it was really tough. Yeah. But I managed to complete my law degree. I just took a little bit longer, I think maybe a semester longer to do that. And then when I got my article clerkship at Holding Redlich, I was so excited, and I just wanted to work so hard to prove that, you know, I was worthy and valid. So I really made sure that I didn't let my disability impact on my workload. But some of the things that I did have to do would be to say no to after work drinks if I'd had a really big day in the office, or if I had to start really early, I sometimes would sneak into the sick bay room and have a little lie down as opposed to going out for lunch. So it was really just about making sure that I didn't get too fatigued during that time. And people that did know were very supportive. So, you know, I'm sure that if I had come out with my disability at that point, I would have been supported, but it's just that fear factor that you'll miss out on opportunities. People might say, oh, well, we don't want to give that to Catherine, that might overload her, that might exhaust her, and I didn't want that to happen to me. But when I was made a principal at Moores, I just felt so safe and so supported, and they already knew about my multiple sclerosis, so I just thought now's a really good time to come out as having a disability, in the hope that it would profile people that have a disability in a positive light, because we often see some pretty scary TV ads or billboards about people with disabilities, and if a young person is out there and they get diagnosed with a disability, the first thing that pops into your mind are those scary ads, and we don't often hear about success stories, so people that are living with a disability that have, you know, really full and wonderful lives. And I'm fortunate enough to sit on the board of Women with Disabilities Victoria, and so every time I go to that board meeting, I'm blown away by all these amazing women doing amazing things, and they have quite full-on disabilities, but they don't let that limit their lives. They actually overcome those issues and advocate for other people, which is just amazing. So, you know, I feel very privileged in the situation that I'm in that my disability doesn't prevent me from working. You know, I'm able to move around quite easily, so, you know, that's a great benefit. So I do think that my role is to sort of help advocate and do what I can for people that can't and aren't in that position. So I guess once I came out and published that article in Lawyers Weekly, it was amazing to hear from so many people around the world. I had a surgeon from the US that called me. I had barristers from interstate that wanted to speak to me. Yeah, and it was just amazing to hear other people were really scared about the stigma for disability. Even barristers who don't actually have an employer as such were worried about stigma from clients, so they hid it. So I'm really hopeful that in talking about it and showing as a young person that you can have disability and a great career, or be an advocate, that will help others see if they do get a diagnosis, that doesn't mean that their lives will stop.
For those that are facing or that do have a similar disability or a different disability, what can they do to stop feeling, I suppose, trapped or, you know, disheartened from, I suppose, applying for a job or telling others? What can they do there?
I think the best situation is to join a network, a group of people that are like-minded and that can support each other and empower each other. So for women, they can join Women with Disabilities Victoria, and you can go along to so many of their events and become a member and see all these amazing people doing great things. For men, there are other like-minded organisations. But I think too, surrounding yourself with people that don't have a disability in that traditional sense and joining those networking groups, just get out there and live your life as best as you can, just like everyone else is doing. And it's interesting when we use the word disability. My mum has a disability as well, and she always says, oh, well, that fellow over there that's wearing glasses, that's a disability. So, you know, we've all got something, and also as people get older, there'll be issues that they'll face as well. So it's really good that we just keep in mind that people are differently abled in lots of different ways, and it's just a matter of working with what you've got to do what you need to do.
Now, you've also got an online beauty business.
Yeah.
And you've just told me you've written a book. You are like Superwoman.
No.
Tell me about the online beauty business.
Okay, so 3 years ago, my girlfriend Celeste was working in the online beauty business, and I had the idea of starting a unique online beauty business that only stocked cruelty-free natural products that had a low environmental impact. And so I rang up Celeste and said, do you reckon we could do something? It would be a really good thing for me to do on the side to learn about small business and what it would be like to sit on the other side of the fence. But it'd just be something really fun and creative, because I think this is a really good, unique opportunity. And I thought at that time that we would have a few boxes in my spare room. And I said to her, you know, I'm out Monday to Friday. I can't do anything Monday to Friday. So are you okay to sort of lead and run with it? And Celeste absolutely loved the idea. She actually grew it and blossomed it into a much bigger idea, and we've now got a warehouse in Geelong, and we employ her full time, and we've also got another co-director, Sarah, who's fantastic with the networking and getting the brand out there. So it's really exciting because we are really making a positive social impact in getting people to switch their brands from brands that test on animals to brands that are cruelty-free, to brands that use glass instead of plastic or have an environmental position. So it's a really fantastic business to be a part of. It's been lots of fun as well.
So what are some of the products you can buy?
Oh, we've got so many. We've got fantastic Inika makeup, we've got lots of natural deodorants, natural perfumes, but also products to clean your clothes or to clean your house. So obviously having a young toddler, I didn't want him sort of running around on the floor or in the bathroom with chemicals in there. So we've got a whole range, and majority of our brands are from Australia because we love supporting other Australian brands, and most of them are female found or female led, which is really exciting. So what we do with those brands, we kind of just help them with social media marketing and putting their brand under our umbrella, and then getting the message out to as many people as we can.
That's cool. I'm definitely going to go on after
yes, please do.
this afternoon and update
have a look,
update everything.
Yeah.
And in terms of, I suppose, having that on the side and practicing law, how has it helped you with your legal career?
I think it's been really good because it's put things into perspective in that, I've had to really make sure that I'm scheduling everything in and using my time efficiently. But it's also been good to learn more about myself, because I've learnt I actually don't want to quit the law and run a beauty business. You know, that's not my forte, and it's been really good to work with Celeste, who, is fantastic at running the beauty business, and to say to her, let's boost you up, let's give this to you to run, and really just learning how to take a back seat and being supportive in a different way. So it's been interesting learning. Obviously I'm a leader in the law, but then really being a support person in the online beauty business has been a good learning curve. And also I think from a legal perspective, as lawyers we often think that businesses need the whole kit and caboodle when it comes to legal protection, but actually running a small business, you're on a bootstrap. You've got to do things a little bit cleverly sometimes. So it's been good to learn how to work creatively so that you don't have a huge legal spend, and that's something I'm very conscious of now when I'm advising businesses.
And you've also written a book.
Yes.
Tell me about the book.
I'm so excited. This is the first book I've ever written, and I'm self-publishing it. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I just really want to get it out into the world. So basically, when I was returning to work, I had a whole lot of women that would constantly call me, and I actually set up a Facebook group called Help a Sister Out that has now over 8,000 women that regularly post, ask questions about their career, how to manage the juggle, how to return to work, and then other women chime in and answer. So it's been great for me because I'm not now answering all of those questions, and the questions are being answered through multiple lenses, not just my viewpoint. So it's really fantastic. But out of that, I was asked to come and speak at some parent groups. And when I turned up to the first one, there were 4 lawyers in the room. And I said, guys, what am I doing here? Like, you're lawyers, you know. And they're like, even, you know, we are confused around return to work, your rights, your obligations. Yeah. So they really grilled me for an hour. And I had Remy there, so we were all juggling our babies and asking questions and responding. And so I thought, well, I need to get this information out. It's too hard to do it one-on-one, you know, in parent groups. So how can I get this information out also, you know, to a lot bigger audience? So I thought, okay, I'll write an FAQ sheet, and that FAQ sheet turned into pages upon pages. And I think because I'm an employment lawyer, I had that knowledge of the law, but then I've experienced it myself. Yeah. So also trying to weave in the strategies that I've tried and the responses from employers that I've been working with. So the book expanded, and I then thought, well, the best way that I've learned about flexible work is from speaking to my friends, people that have gone before me. So I actually interviewed a whole range of parents, parents who are from same-sex relationships, a single mother, a normal heterosexual couple who had, you know, split the load. I then spoke to a stay-at-home dad, so I tried to get stories from all different walks of life, and I've now collated that into the book. So hopefully it'll be released next month, and I'm really excited to share the information with the world.
And will it be available? Like, how big is the book? And
so I think it'll be around sort of the 60 pages, and it's going to be available on Amazon, and both an ebook and you can purchase hard copy, but it's going to be very low cost because it's not about making money, it's about trying to help other parents work flexibly as well.
That's awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait to read it.
Thanks. I can't wait to see it. It's with the graphic designer now.
Is it?
Yeah.
And when you say you're self-publishing, what does that mean?
It basically just means I'm publishing through Amazon. So I'm paying for it all myself. I've paid for an amazing editor to edit it. I've paid for the photography and the graphic designer. So I really just want to get it out now and see how it goes in the world. But I think it's unique in that it's sort of a step-by-step guide on how to work flexibly and how to return to work after having a baby, but also including those case studies and stories about how other people have done it as well. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I'm sure it'll be a success.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you do? There's so much. Like, I do this, I do anything else.
My husband's always saying that I need
anything
to care
in the
more
pipeline.
No, there's nothing else in the pipeline. My brother and I are really focusing all of our energy on child safety, so we're doing a lot of work in the child safety space, and that's really rewarding work, because if we can prevent just one child from being abused in our community organisations, then we've done a good job. So in 2015 we launched our free child protection toolkit, which was downloaded over 100,000 times.
Wow.
And next month we're re-releasing that with updates from the Royal Commission into institutional responses to child abuse and all the new legislative updates. So that's something I'm really excited about, and we spend our days going out to community organisations, talking to them about how to spot child abuse, how to respond to it, how to report it, how to protect the children within our care. So it's just a really cool thing to be a part of, and that's something we're really focusing our energy on this year.
You are Superwoman. I'm going to send you a little.
Thank you.
This has been amazing. So thanks for sharing everything.
Thank you. Cheers.
That is all for now, but don't fear, because I'll be back next week speaking to more incredible people within the legal profession. Thanks for watching, thanks for sharing this video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the Gatehouse Legal Recruitment YouTube channel where you can see more.